The Force is strong with you. A powerful Sith you will become. You shall be known as Darth.
Cinema Enzo.
Thank you, my master.
So we all know that Marvel movies have been struggling lately, especially after they blew their load with Thanos. Every movie that has come out after that hasn't really resonated with audiences, other than like maybe Spider-Man No Way Home. And now that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is out, Phase 5 of the MCU has officially begun. And one of the most anticipated aspects of Phase 5 of the MCU and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is the introduction of the new supervillain Kang the Conqueror. And in today's video, I want to analyze how they failed to give him a significant and memorable introduction, leaving an unseized opportunity. Because you have to understand, the MCU is banking on this guy to be the new version of Thanos and recapture the magic of those movies. And he really could have been, because what you also have to understand is that the best opportunities come at the worst moments. Remember that old saying, after every storm there's a rainbow? This is so true. Right now we're in a storm of shit Marvel movies, and this movie could have been the rainbow movie that took us out of the storm, but unfortunately it is not. So let's discuss why. Now, before I go any further, I do want to mention that this has nothing to do with the acting or the design of the character. I thought Jonathan Majors did a phenomenal job as Kang, and I think he's the perfect actor choice for this role. And I also thought the design was really cool and a great way to take the character from the comics to the big screen. So what I'm going to be talking about is specifically how they wrote this character. So as you guys probably know by now, I'm a huge fan of Phil Mento and I've learned a lot from him. And if you've seen his video on how to introduce a villain, he talks about the 3 ways you can do just that. Now I'm not going to go over all 3 ways. If you're curious, you can go ahead and watch his video. I'll link it in the description below. But long story short, this movie uses the second option, which is building up your villain through the aftermath of their actions. You see, you can build up the villain before their actual introduction by showing the consequences of their actions that accurately represent who they are. For example, in The Batman, we follow the Dark Knight as he encounters the aftermath of the Riddler's twisted puzzles and traps, which leaves his victims trapped and helpless. Each puzzle showcases the Riddler's intellect and sadism, highlighting his distinct character traits and motivations, similar to how Seven builds up John Doe through the grotesque murders that he commits. The Batman uses the aftermath of the Riddler's crimes to build up his villainy. The Riddler remains unseen for most of the movie, with his presence only being felt through the chaos and destruction that he leaves. When the Riddler finally does reveal himself, his entrance is memorable and fitting to his character. The introduction matches the build-up and showcases the villain's traits, motives, and methods. However, it is essential to introduce the villain in a way that we can view them as the perpetrator behind whatever actions we've seen or heard of. The introduction should match what came before it, and the villain's actions should be immediately recognizable as belonging to them. This way, the build-up will only work if it builds up to something that is believable and fitting for the character. Where they failed with Kang in this movie is that they didn't show us his action. We hear about them, and they talk a lot about it in the movie, but we don't see his actions, which makes it a lot less impactful for us. I mean, just take a look at this scene, for example.
Do you know how many rebellions I have put down?
No.
How many worlds I've conquered?
No.
How many Avengers I've killed?
No! We don't know how many rebellions you've crushed, we don't know how many worlds you've conquered, and we don't know how many goddamn Avengers you've killed, because we haven't seen it! Instead of telling us about this stuff, why don't you actually show us at the beginning of the movie? Like, imagine if the movie started like The Empire Strikes Back, where we actually see the Imperial fleet crush the rebellion. Or what if the movie opened like Man of Steel, where we see the world getting completely destroyed as Kang and his armies are taking over and conquering? What if there was a scene where we saw an Avenger running for his life, scared to death, running away from something that he knew he couldn't beat, something more powerful than him? What if? But no, that's not what we got. They didn't do any of those things. They just decide to talk about it, which leads me to my next point, the problem with exposition. Exposition refers to the narrative technique where information is directly provided to the audience through dialogue, narration, or other means, usually in a straightforward manner. While exposition can be a useful tool for conveying information quickly, it is generally not as effective as showing the audience what is happening through action. There are several reasons why showing is generally more impactful than exposition. First, when a story is shown rather than told, it allows the audience to experience the events for themselves, which can make the story feel more immersive and engaging. This is because when the audience is shown what is happening, they have to use their own imagination and reasoning to interpret the events, which can make the story feel more personal and relatable. Second of all, showing can be a more effective way to create an emotional impact on the audience. When the audience is shown the events of a story, they are able to see the emotions of the characters and the impact of the events on the world around them. This can create a stronger emotional connection between the audience and the story, as they can see and feel the consequences of what is happening in a more tangible way. So instead of talking about the crushed rebellions and the worlds you've conquered, why don't you show us a scene where there's a world that is devastated and maybe a girl and maybe her mom or her parents are dying, and us suffering the consequences and feeling the emotions of that scene because of the actions of Kang. That is my point. Finally, showing can be a more effective way to build suspense and tension in a story. When the audience is shown what is happening, they are able to see the events unfolding in real time, which can create a sense of anticipation and excitement. Exposition, on the other hand, can often feel like a dry recitation of facts, which can be less engaging and less likely to hold the audience's attention. And that's exactly what that moment felt like, a recitation of facts that had zero emotional weight. Of course, exposition can be a useful tool in certain contexts, such as when it is necessary to convey important information quickly. However, in general, showing is a more powerful and engaging narrative technique that can help to create a more memorable and impactful story. The next point I want to get into is how Kang's buildup was very weak. You see, the only reason as to why you wouldn't show the audience the actions of your villain is to add to the mystery of the character. And although fear of the unknown is one of the best types of fear a movie can utilize, because it allows us to use our imagination to build something up bigger than what it actually is, you can still show us the actions behind the villain, building up the myth or the legend even more. But instead in this movie, all we get is the look.
You're still hiding things from us. I am trying to protect you.
From what?
Who are you so afraid of?
I mean, this is the look I get when I try to ask for sex. Hey babe, wanna have sex? I mean, yes, the fact that she doesn't want to talk about him at all is scary, and the expressions that she uses on her face makes you wonder, who is this person that she's so afraid of? But give us a little more, for God's sakes. I mean, it feels like Voldemort, where we can't even speak his name.
We do not speak his name.
Now, my last point is going to be very hard to argue because there's a lot of good counter arguments to it, but I'm still going to throw it out there. It's hard for me to consider him a great villain when he doesn't even feel that personal to Scott Lang. I mean, at a fundamental level, a good antagonist is someone that challenges the protagonist, but in this movie, the protagonist just feels lost in the mix. He feels more personal to Janet. I mean, she's the one that has a history with him. She's the one that did something to him that makes him resent her and want to get revenge on her. It almost feels like she should have been the protagonist of the movie. I mean, we're following her throughout the entire movie. Our hero is only there because his daughter is in the mix and he's just trying to help his daughter. He doesn't even know who Kang is.
I don't know who you are, but
He has no beef with him, and the only reason why he's dealing with him is because Kang has his daughter for leverage. A good counter argument to my point would be my last video essay that I did on Kung Fu Panda. Tai Lung is one of the best animated villains ever, and he's not really that personal to Po, he's more personal to Shifu. So there you go. And not for nothing, if this is the supervillain that's supposed to take the mantle of Thanos, I mean, he kinda had a weak first impression. You're talking about the villain that's supposed to fight the Avengers, and he couldn't even beat up Ant-Man? I mean, no disrespect to Ant-Man, but it's not the Avengers, right? It's not Thor or like the Hulk. And if he can't beat up one Avenger easily, then how is he supposed to take on all the Avengers at once? And a good counter-argument to this point would be that Thanos didn't necessarily win in the first Avengers. I mean, he wanted to get the Tesseract and he didn't get it, so technically he lost. But at least we didn't see Thanos get his ass whooped by Ant-Man. I mean, come on, look at this. He's getting his ass beat by Ant-Man. Could you imagine seeing Hulk just pounding Thanos to the ground? Would Thanos' introduction be as impactful if you saw that? I don't think so. Anyways, I still think there's a lot of potential for this character. I just think they did a terrible job at introducing him in an impactful way. But he still has good qualities, and I think he's an interesting individual. Like, for example, his relationship with time is super intriguing. I really hope they dive into this and really expand on it, because I think there is a gold mine there. But let me know if you guys want to see a video essay on Ant-Man the movie as a whole, because I know I've been spending a lot of time shitting on the introduction of this villain, but I actually did enjoy this movie. I thought it had good moments and funny humor. Like this guy, I thought thought was hilarious in the movie. So if you guys want to hear a more positive review, go ahead and comment down below, and I will go ahead and make a video essay on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania as a whole. It's by no means Marvel's best movie, but it was still a fun time at the movie theater, and I'll go ahead and do that for you guys. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you guys enjoyed Kang's introduction, and as always, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
I don't know what to be. Tell me what to be.
I don't know. Just don't be a dick.
It's too late. Look at me. I'm such a dick.
It's never too late to stop being a
Dickhead.